Your first city campaign doesn't have to be difficult to run, and for that, we look at Ghostbusters. Welcome to DMGI, where we inspire you to be a better dungeon master. I'm Kyle Fergusson. Today, we're going to look at the 1984 film Ghostbusters as an example of running an easy city campaign. Urban settings are some serious advanced DMing. Cities are packed with people, characters you have to run and manage. And if you're going for a sandbox style game where you've labeled all the roads and locations, you're looking at some absolutely grueling homework. That is why Ghostbusters is such an excellent example for your first city, because it's made up of a few locations and only a few characters that actually matter. The rest of it is all the feeling of being in the city. A city campaign isn't all that different from a wilderness campaign, except the players are always in front of an audience. Their bumbling exploits are being judged around every corner. But think about it more like a world map than just a very big town. We still have little hamlets, quest givers, and dungeons. For example, Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler arrive at the library in New York City. They're going to investigate a disturbance, and they interview the townsfolk who've seen a ghost. They then head into the dungeon below the library. Much like the scene, manage your players, move them quickly between settings. In a city, there are many distractions. Arrive on location, talk to the most important person, and get them in a controlled environment. In this case, the library dungeon, the catacombs. Here our players face a ghost that's too high level for them, but they realize that if they go out, increase their reputation, level up, and get some magic items, they can come back and defeat the ghost at a later time. This is an extremely important part of the feeling of a city. It's a part of the management that you can't skip on as DM. The players have to feel hungry. It is expensive to be in a city, and their funds must be continually taxed and pushed, so they look for more work. In the case of our heroes in the film, they go back to the university and realize they have no jobs. Your players will likely be adventurers for hire, so they need to find a place where they can get more work. In this way, the firehouse is no different than a tavern, where people can call upon the heroes, where they receive work. Could be a job board, could be quest givers. And one quest giver that arrives on their doorstep is Dana Barrett, a noblewoman who lives right outside of Central Park. This introduces our players to the main quest, defeat Gozer the Gozerian. But it also introduces another location, which cities are ultimately made of. But this one's extremely important. We get to see it change over the course of the adventure. The city is an uncaring thing. It will move in its own way. It evolves without inclusion from the players. But this main quest location serves to show us how the story is progressing and the impact the players' actions are having on their world, because ultimately they won't be impacting the city itself at this level. Just like any good campaign, there are side quests to enrich the theme. And so the Ghostbusters get their first big payday running an adventure in the Sedgwick Hotel. They are seen by the public, but once again, we head to the dungeon. Here the players test out their new magic items. There's a maid and a steward, but ultimately the dungeon is barren, giving us a very controllable environment for the players to interact with. They defeat the boss, and their reputation grows. Now, players love to ask every NPC's name, so have a ready list available. But in this example, there is only the manager of the hotel that you need to come up with a personality for. Otherwise, everyone else is a passerby. With each one of these side adventures, the player's reputation goes up and down. You can think of it on a -10 to +10 scale. The players' performances on these adventures cause the public to interact with them differently. As the players finally find comfort in the city and financial success, the main quest rears its ugly head. Only now is the adventure escalated to City Hall, the King's Palace. The crowd here is a mechanical manifestation, a report on how the players did with their reputation. The players return to Dana Barrett's apartment, where they see it in its third and most destroyed form, showcasing the full evolution and descent into Gozerian madness. A boss fight on the rooftop of the building concludes the adventure. Lay out your city in terms of locations, not based on a map as you'd know it in the real world. The workload is too high when you label every street and every building. You also do your future self a huge disservice. You don't leave any room to grow. Labeling everything in that city means you are now stuck with the map your past self made, and city campaigns are very long-winded. You may spend up to a year in real-world time playing inside the city, and your interests might frankly change. If you see a movie or video game that influences what you want to do with your campaign, you won't be able to add it because there simply won't be any room for it. These locations are spread out to give a sense of space, to make sure the players feel like they're moving between locations. In this beginner episode on city building, only concern yourself about where you put water or rivers, as those heavily influence trade and can build all sorts of factors with them. Otherwise, call your map done and add to it as you have need and time. You could even begin your campaign with a one-shot that was the library adventure, and then build from there. Another great example of a film that uses location-based city settings is a film from the same year as Ghostbusters, 1984's The Terminator. They go to a restaurant, a nightclub, a police station, a motel, and a factory. You can also place a city in your world without it having to be a major setting. That's exactly what happens in the 1950 film Cinderella. Cinderella travels all the way to the palace and back again without interacting with any other locations. If you do want to run a more sandbox-style city, it can be easiest to lay it out in terms of districts, so you don't have to plan every road, but at least you know where future things will go. And when the players ask for a certain store, you know the general area that you will place it in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and share it. Thanks for watching.